The number one piece of advice for writing is to keep it simple. So we can think about that in terms of the length of the film. Don't aim for something too long. It can be whatever length it needs to be. For a short film, probably less than 20 minutes. But just think about how long you need to tell this story and tell it as simply as you can. So if that ends up being 4 minutes long, so be it. If it needs to be 10 minutes, then that's fine too. But keep it simple, don't overwrite. Tell the story as economically as you can. The second thing, in terms of the simplicity of the writing, is to think about how many characters you need. It will get very complicated if you've got 20 characters in the film. Complicated to film, and also complicated for the audience to get to know 20 characters properly. So maybe you want to tell it with fewer characters. That's just a thought for the writing. How many people do you need to tell this story? Thirdly, location. Think about where you want to set the film. And with film, you will want to vary the location, that's obvious. You'll want variety, you want shifts so that the story goes to different places perhaps. Perhaps it doesn't, perhaps it stays in one spot, but by all means vary the location, but just think about what kind of location you're asking the film to be shot in. Public spaces can be quite tricky because the public get involved, they're there in the background is always changing. There could even be licensing issues with public spaces. But just as you write it, think about how viable the locations are. And the fourth thing is period. So possibly the simplest choice is to set it in the present day. Doesn't mean you have to. You can do a period piece, but it will bring in more complications as you try to build that world realistically when you film. So it could be a period piece, but that will just mean a little bit more planning. So think about the period and keep the writing simple. If you're new to short film writing, then my advice is to stay close to what you know, because we all write better about things that we know plenty about. It's a big leap to write about something that's unfamiliar, and when it's your first time, definitely stay in a world that is close to your heart and that you know lots about. For a short film, probably you want to be thinking about something that's no longer than 20 minutes. But really it's a question of budget. And if you're on a tight budget, then stay closer to 5 minutes. It's going to be easier at every stage, the filming and the editing afterwards. But of course, the key thing is the story, and you need to work out what length of film is needed to tell this story best. We said before, don't overwrite, don't make it longer than it needs to be. 20 minutes might be needed, but many stories can be told much more succinctly. Start with an idea that really excites you. You're going to have to share this idea with everyone else who's going to be on board making the film. So you're the writer, but you may have a separate director, you will have a whole team who are contributing to this film, and you want this idea to be as exciting for them as it is for you. So you pick an idea that really, really excites you, and to test it out, find a friend and see if you can tell them that idea in under a minute. And if you can, that's a really, really good test as to whether the idea is going to hold up. Structurally, you don't have to have a complete story arc. It can be really tricky in the limited time of a short film to tell a whole story arc. And in any case, you could just pick one event and tell that from different perspectives. But whatever you choose to do make sure there is a structure. So very basically that means there is a beginning, something happens in the middle, and then the film has an ending. A good way to think about structure, if you're trying to shape your story, is set up a problem, complicate the problem, and then resolve the problem. And that will give you a very clear structure. You can absolutely make a short film with no words. And if you do that, then you need to think about what pictures you need to tell the story. Actually, that's quite a good way to think of any short film, because the words in a short film must really count. You haven't got long, so you need to make sure that any words you are going to use really serve their purpose. So probably in your prep, a very good thing to do is to imagine this short film with no words and decide on what the pictures would be. Ultimately, you might well add words, but you don't have to. And very important too with a short film, this isn't a radio play, this is a film. So as you write, work out why it is that we have to see this film, why are the visuals important? And think about that all the time you're writing, so that this is clearly a film where the pictures matter as much as the words. Show your script to other people and get their feedback. Now, of course, you don't have to act on every comment, but take on board what they say, and particularly if more than one person says the same thing, really have a think about redrafting. Don't be afraid of drafts. Most films go through several stages of preparation on the page. So take other people's advice if you think it's useful and have another go.